All right, everybody, how's it going? It is Tuesday, October 1st, 2024, and of course, we just finished with week 4 of the NFL, and I only said Brocktober because it's kind of just a jab at my buddy Ven, who doesn't really like Brock Purdy and the 49ers. He's not a big fan of all that, so just saying that to kind of mess with him. But anyway, we're here in week 5 now. Week 4 is done, so of course, it's only natural to move on to week 5. But before we jump into the picks and all that, make sure you leave your picks down below. It's always fun to see what you have to say about the video, about your picks, about my picks, all that fun stuff. I usually comment back really quickly. As always, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel as well. But that's about it for this introduction. We did pretty good last week, and as you'll see in a second, I had to switch one of my picks on Saturday because the Dolphins are unserious. I didn't realize they were going with Huntley and not signing any other quarterbacks. Kind of a weird idea, but hey, it's not my team, I suppose. So I switched off a pick and I went 9-7. So as usual, remember, like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. Let's get into the picks. This is how we did and how we're doing. Of course, we went 9-7. Again, I changed off Miami when they went with Huntley. I'm not picking Miami for the rest of the year until Tua's back or they get a better QB. That brings us to a 32-33 overall record. Still pretty bad, but again, we're improving. Hopefully now we're over the bad, weird part of the NFL. Again, the first 4 weeks are kind of a crapshoot now. With the one less preseason game and the shorter practices, you kind of can see like the rust in the players. Things are a little sloppy the first few weeks. Really good teams look really bad, and it's kind of just a build up to better football, I would suppose. But I think we're past that now. That should say bye weeks, my bad, but here are the teams that are bye. So if you're a fan of the Lions, you can watch and hopefully see Minnesota lose or something. If you're a fan of the Chargers, maybe you can watch and see the Chiefs lose. If you're a fan of the Titans, you can do whatever Titans fans do in off seasons. And then of course you have the Eagles. You can just hope everybody loses, because I think Eagles fans hate everybody. So whatever you want to do during the bye week, you're off this week. And for the Lions, it comes at a perfect time because they're a little banged up. Alrighty. So for Thursday Night Football, 8:15 p.m. Eastern, like usual, we have a pretty solid game actually for the first time Thursday night. It's been kind of dry. The Falcons are 1.5 point favorites with an over/under of 43.5. It's the Buccaneers versus Falcons. Both teams coming off a win. Falcons beat the Saints, and the Buccaneers kind of beat down on the Eagles. For this game, I'm kind of leaning more towards the Bucs. Basically, I think the Bucs have played pretty good defense all year. They shut down the Lions. They shut down the Eagles now. They've played pretty solid defense throughout. Their offense has been doing enough to win games, and it looks like they kind of might be clicking a little bit now, especially against the Eagles. With Atlanta, again, they've looked good. They've looked bad. It's been kind of inconsistent still. They're trying to get their identity down with Cousins. So again, maybe that game versus the Saints was it, but I don't know. Typically, you like to lean towards like home teams on Thursday night, but I'm kind of thinking that Tampa's a little bit better of a team, especially with their defense. I think they can shut down a kind of streaky, inconsistent Falcons offense. Yeah, that's kind of the way I'm leaning in this one anyway. And if I don't have to pick Atlanta, I'm not going to pick the Falcons. All right, let's jump on to the international game. I think this one's in London. It could be in one of the other ones, but I'm not too sure. But at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard, it's the New York Jets taking on the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings are favored by 2.5 points with an over/under of 40.5. Jets coming off a 10-9 loss to the Broncos, and the Vikings coming off a very tight win versus the Packers, 31-29, in which their offense shined again. So that's one of the things for the Vikings. They're playing very good offense. Their defense is doing enough to win them the game. And again, the offense is doing enough to back up the defense, playing very good team football at this point to the season. Whereas the Jets are not playing good team football. When they're losing, they're kind of at each other's throats. It doesn't look like a very cohesive situation. Things look a little sloppy, a little weird. You kind of have this like weird tension in the Jets like all throughout the Jets locker room. It looks like you have guys disagreeing on snap counts, on coaches disagreeing on coaches, and Aaron disagreeing on like Aaron using his full like cadences, and like it's like a whole mess. It feels like the chemistry is weird. Going up against a team that feels like they're playing complete football is always got to lean towards a team doing that. So because of that, I'm going to lead towards the Vikings, but never know, I suppose. No, this one isn't good. Carolina Panthers take on the Chicago Bears. Bears are favored by 3.5 with an over/under of 42.5. Panthers lost to the Bengals. I shouldn't have picked them last week, 34-24. and the Bears beat the Rams 24-18. Their offense looked a little better. Their defense is playing pretty solid. So when I think of that, I think that the Panthers don't have anywhere near the offense of the teams the Bears have beaten and have played good against, and kind of been playing overall just good defense this year. So I can see them shutting down Dalton and company and doing, again, just enough to win the game that they've done again, against teams like the Rams and the Colts, I believe. So actually, I don't remember who won that game. Either way, I think the Bears are a better team than the Panthers, so they'll win. Even with like the Dalton era going on. All right, what do we got next? Baltimore Ravens taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. The Ravens won their game 35-10 over the Bills, blew them out. And the Bengals won their game 34-24 over the Panthers, like we just discussed. Ravens are 2.5-point favorites with an over-under of 50.5. So when I look at this game, I'm kind of thinking like when I think of the Bengals right now, this is kind of how I'm thinking. Their defense hasn't been great all year. It's been kind of streaky. It's been kind of bad. They gave up 24 to the Panthers. They gave up a whole bunch to the Commanders. They let the Patriots score 17 or 16 on them. So again, it's one of them things where you're looking at it like, all right, so they're kind of bad on defense. Specifically, like if you look to the Commanders, they're like, all right, they kind of play like a light version of what the Ravens do on offense. They're not dissimilar anyway. And so you're starting to think like maybe a Ravens team that plays a more developed, mature offense than Washington does, with a more mature team and better coached at this point anyway. You can kind of see where the Ravens may just like mimic a game plan that kind of blew Cincinnati's defense out of the water. Again, I think the Bengals offensively will hang in this game because they've been scoring a lot of points so far. They're kind of clicking on offense, but their defense has been kind of inconsistent, kind of not that good this year. And I could kind of see a team like the Ravens replicating something that's worked and executing it to success. So I want the Ravens in this one. They seem like the team that should win this game. There's some really good games this week. The Bills and the Texans is another good one. When I was recording this before, this is the second time through, a bug went into my mouth and I was like, like there's a whole another version of this where I'm like, no. It was a hilarious situation that happened. That's why I kind of sound a little annoyed if you haven't noticed. Anyway, Bills and Texans. Now we're caught back up. Bills are 3-1. Texans are 3-1. They're both the Texans are coming off a win. The Bills are coming off a loss. Texans are 1.5-point favorites with an over/under of 47.5. All right, we're caught back up. So I look at this game. I'm thinking, all right, so there have been two games in which the Bills defenses looked pretty bad, but they won one of them and lost one of them. They lost that game obviously to the Ravens, and then they beat the Cardinals. The two defenses where they've looked good were against the Jaguars, who have looked bad all year, and the Dolphins when they lost Tua. So there's like, all right, so their defense probably isn't the greatest, especially against things like the run, and especially against teams that can kind of throw and run. They're not very good against two-dimensional teams. You can see that with the Ravens. You can see that with the Cardinals. Cardinals aren't the greatest team, but their offense is two-dimensional. They can run and throw. So the Texans can run the ball with Mixon and their stable of running backs. And of course, the Texans with Stroud, Diggs, and company can throw the shit out of the ball. So I can see this being a situation where the Bills defense isn't necessarily able to hang in this game and keep the Texans from scoring pretty much at will. However, I do think the Bills will be able to score on the Texans defense that hasn't been that great. It's been very penalty happy. So again, the Bills are a very opportunistic team. So the Texans and their penalty problem this year, so far anyway, they've been doing a lot of them, may keep Buffalo in this game. However, I think the Texans offense is the thing that keeps this out of reach for the Bills. Especially because, again, the Texans can do two things where it seems like the Bills kind of aren't doing well against teams that are multifaceted right now. That's kind of why I think Texans win. Plus revenge game for Stephon Diggs. All right, what do we got? We got 3 games left. We got the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Jaguars. Jaguars are 2.5-point favorites with an over/under of 46.5. You may be confused as to why. I'll tell you why. Colts beat the Steelers 27-24. They're 2-2. Jaguars are 0-4 with a 24-20 loss to the Texans. The Jaguars have not lost a home game to the Indianapolis Colts since 2014. That's just, I'm picking the Colts. I'm picking the Jags. I don't go against weird streaks like that until they're broken. It's fundamental. I've never picked the Jaguars to lose to the Colts at home. They just don't do that. Not since Peyton Manning left that team. Just not a thing they do. I think Luck was the last Indy quarterback to beat the Indianapolis Colts or to beat the Jaguars in Jacksonville, if like that means anything. They're literally favored. Like the Jaguars are favored to win this game. Oh boy. Don't worry, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Miami Dolphins take on the New England Patriots. Patriots are 1.5 point favorites with an over under of 35.5. Both teams 1-3. The only reason I've spent this much time on this game already is because I'm a fan of the Patriots, right? Both teams coming off very similar looking losses, 30-13 for the Patriots, 31-12, basically the same loss. I'm going to go with the Patriots because they have a semi-functioning offense, whereas the Dolphins kind of, I don't know. I'm going to go with the Patriots. Who cares? These are two worst teams in football right now. The Cleveland Browns take on the Washington Commanders. Commanders are 3-point favorites with an over-under of 43.5. The Raiders, the Browns are coming off another loss. They lost 20-16 to the Raiders. Commanders, another win. They are fucking 3-1. They have a 42-14 win versus the Cardinals. I like the Commanders in this one. Their defense is starting to kind of ramp up and play a little bit better. I think they can shut down what has been a very struggle-heavy Cleveland Browns offense. They haven't looked that great. There's been quite a few issues for the Browns so far. And again, with the Commanders, they've looked really good on offense. They haven't really missed a beat the last like 2 or 3 weeks. It looks like Jaden Daniels and them are finding their groove. And I don't know if there's enough out there quite yet for the Browns to have tape to figure out what he does super well, some of his problems. Though I think a defense as competent as the Browns can kind of slow this down a little bit and keep it close. I just don't know if the Cleveland Browns offensively can like win this game, where they had plenty of chances to win versus the Raiders and just couldn't get it done. So kind of leaning towards the Commanders in this one. Sucks to be the Browns. Oh yeah, that's the end of the one. Oh wow. All right. 4:00 games. The Raiders take on the Denver Broncos. Broncos are 2.5 point favorites with an over under of 36.5. Raiders coming off a win. Broncos coming off a win. Both teams are 2-2, and I'm going to go with the Raiders because the Raiders have won 8 straight games versus the Broncos. If you didn't know that, I think that's how that's played out. The Raiders keep winning. They have figured out something about the Broncos. I don't really think the Broncos have a very good offense. I think a defense like the Raiders can completely shut down the Broncos, and I think they can score enough points to win the game. Ultimately, like I don't go against like long streaks. That's kind of like I have like a golden rule. Like I'm not going to be the guy to be like, and this is the game they lose. You know, it's just something I don't do. Plus, I think the Raiders are playing better football. So. Arizona Cardinals take on the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers are 7.5 point favorites with an over-under of 50.5. The 49ers coming off a win. Cardinals coming off a blowout loss. So, I don't know. I think the 49ers are going to win this game pretty comfortably. Cardinals defensively don't look good at all. 49ers offense was looking pretty good against the Patriots, so I could imagine them scoring pretty easily against the Cardinals. Defensively, the Cardinals... offensively, the Cardinals are up and down all over the place. They haven't looked good the last couple weeks, though, so I'm imagining they're kind of slowed down right now. 49ers defense isn't exactly one to have offensive woes against, so I can imagine 49ers winning quite easily. Green Bay Packers take on the Los Angeles Rams. Packers are 3.5 point favorites with an over-under of 47.5. Packers coming off that loss. Rams coming off a loss. I don't know. I think the Packers are a better team, right? They were a lot closer in their game against a much better team than the Bears. I don't know. Love will be a lot more like dialed in. That was his first game back. He started to look really good in the second half once he had like some play time and a little bit of rust knocked off of him. So expect the Packers offense to look a lot more sharp, more like they did in the second half of that game, not like they did in the first. Rams offensively are pretty much dead. They have like so many issues, so many injuries and all that. I think playing a team that is as good as the Packers can be is a problem for the team like the Rams, who struggled versus the Bears, who probably wouldn't be able to beat the Packers. So give me the Packers. All right, what do we got here? New York Giants take on the Seahawks. Oh, this won't be close. The Giants lost 20-15 versus the Cowboys, and the Seahawks lost 42-29 versus the Lions. By the way, if the Seahawks put up that kind of effort against most teams, they're going to win. It's just the Lions offense decided to crack out last night, and there's not much you can do when that offense gets going. Seahawks are 6.5 point favorites with an over-under of 41.5. I like the Seahawks to win this game. I think they'll be able to shut down whatever the Giants have offensively, or even if they can't, they'll be able to outpace the Giants and just kind of win the game like that. Because again, if the Seahawks do that kind of effort against almost any other team in the league, they win. The problem is when you do it against a team like the Detroit, it tends to go nowhere for you. Because again, Detroit can match you punch for punch, and they were. And that's where everything kind of went wrong for Seattle. They're like, damn, Detroit's just going to score every time but 3 times. And 2 of them, they didn't even try. All right, that's the 4 o'clock games. We're on to prime timers. Again, there's 2 less games this week, so this is going to be a little quicker of a video, right? You know how bye weeks work. Dallas Cowboys take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers are 1.5 point favorites with an over-under of 42.5. This game was one of the toughest ones to pick this week. Steelers coming off a loss, Cowboys coming off a win. I'm going to go with the Cowboys, mainly because I think if it's like a 14-14 type game or like a really close game late, I don't know if I trust the Steelers offense enough to make the game-winning drive. Whereas I do trust the Cowboys if they get the ball late in a tie game or a close game to make a big play in the regular season to win a game. I infinitely trust the Cowboys offense more than the Steelers offense right now. And I think the Steelers defensively will be able to do a lot of damage to the Cowboys offense. However, it's not that the Cowboys play bad defense, though. You know what I mean? They can shut down the Steelers offensively. The Steelers aren't like a super powered threat. You know, they're used to running quarterbacks. The Cowboys are. They play them in their division. 2 of the 3 teams, even Washington has a runner now. So it's like, you know, they have 3 QBs that they're used to. A lot of the NFC use them. So again, Dallas is kind of used to that style of QB. And it's just... I feel like, again, it comes down to, I think the defensive play will wind up in a wash because, again, the Steelers offense isn't the greatest. I think the Cowboys defense can rise up and kind of deal with it. And I think the Steelers defense speaks for itself. This to me comes down to what offense I trust more to be able to make a play late. And that comes down to Dallas because the Steelers, you know, have Justin Fields and, you know, they could have won the game against the Colts in, I think, 2 tries and couldn't. So, all right, Monday Night Football. Here we go. 8:15 p.m. We have the Saints taking on the Chiefs for my upset pick of the week. Chiefs are 5.5 point favorites with an over/under of 42.5. Again, the Saints lost. Chiefs won. Chiefs are 4-0. The reason I'm picking the Saints, I think, because of the injuries to the Chiefs. I think the Saints defensively can create enough havoc in this game to kind of keep the Chiefs off balance. Again, the Chiefs haven't been playing the sharpest football this season. They've been kind of stumbling through wins, even ask their fans. Again, they're winning the games. That's ultimately all that matters, but not been pretty. Mahomes hasn't been playing the greatest ball the last couple weeks, and now they're kind of without one of the receivers. People are banged up. The Saints have Derek Carr, who's going to play this game like a fucking machine. And again, I think the Saints have that kind of weird, sporadic, chaotic kind of energy where they can just jump up and beat a team really quickly. And if, like, say the Saints get up to a huge lead, I don't know if the Chiefs right now have like a comeback capability in them. Just kind of as they sit, as they're kind of formulated. However, they could, and I could just be kind of speaking out of my ass and the Chiefs win this game. But this is sort of my upset pick, so I don't have to explain it much. I just have a gut feeling the Saints steal this game. So I'm going to go with the Saints. Should be a good game, though. All right, that's pretty much all I got. That's I won't hold your attention too much longer. I appreciate you watching. As always, that's it. That's week 4. That's week 5, rather. Down the drain already. Jesus. Down the drain, in the tubes, in the dumps. Now we have to see how it plays out. Got a couple days out, so... Anyway, appreciate you watching. Have a good rest of your day, night, mid-morning, mid-afternoon, mid-evening, that time between 7 and 8, where it's not quite afternoon, but it's not quite night. Dusk? I don't know. Whenever. Have a good one. Thanks for listening. Enjoy your day. As always, it's go Lions, go Tigers, and of course, it's always go Patriots, even though we suck. Yeah, that's it. Peace out. Enjoy your day. Bye.